Okay, guys. So I was watching David the Watchman's video, the last one. It's even a broken watch is correct 2 times a day. I ended up leaving a comment, which I ended up accidentally deleting. And I wanted to say he confirmed something, and I'm just gonna expand on it. Everything I say, take it to the Lord. Okay? I do believe that the April 8th sign also was the sign of Jonah, and that's actually how I found his channel, because I did a video and then I watched his video and it confirmed my video, because it was in the first video I've ever seen from him, and he had such a couple, like 100 people, and I was just like, wow, God, you can just use anybody. And it confirmed everything, my studies and stuff. So then he goes on to clarify how April 8th plus 40 days leads to May 25th, which is the floods. Just like I said, all this was just confirming. And then we have an additional 40 days from May 25th would lead us to July 4th. Okay, and that's where it stopped, because this is where the confirmation why people are getting gut feelings, why there's a possible rapture or something major happening on the 4th of July. All right, so backtracking, April 8th, I believe that it was a warning. Okay, there's 4 watches that are spoken of in the Bible, right? And it talks about if I shall not come in the first watch, watch in the second, and so on and so forth. God says that no sign shall be given except the sign of Jonah. But the Jews seek after a sign, but no sign shall be given except the sign of Jonah. So there was our cue for April 8th, and it made the Aleph Tav, okay, all over the United States. Which also leads, April 21st, 2017 from the first eclipse, or 2021, excuse me. Yeah. To the first eclipse. That's what it was. And then it was the Revelation 12 sign. All right. So now this is going to get deep. The Bible clearly tells us, in Matthew 24, Luke 21, all right, that as the days of Noah were, so shall be the coming of the Son of Man, where they were eating, drinking, marrying, given unto marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and then the floods came and took them all away, and they did not know. Now, we know that God promises that he would never flood the whole earth again. So he gave us a covenant, which was his rainbow, with the 7 colors. Okay, it might be 8 actually. I think it's 8. But anyways, he gave us a rainbow as a promise of his covenant that he's not going to flood the earth again. But he did say that he's going to destroy it by fire, hail, and brimstone. All right, so with Babylon, Mystery Babylon, being America the Great, gets destroyed in 1 hour. So if it gets destroyed in 1 hour, how's that even possible? Be by nuclear. Israel is already on standby with their nuclear weapons. Okay, like we talked about this last night in the last few videos. Also, we have Russia pointing missiles at us, nukes, and all it's going to take is one button, done. And I believe it could happen by the 4th of July. I don't know if it's going to, but it could. All this is speculation. But now, forwarding, okay? So April 8th plus 40 days to May 25th would be like the first watch. May 25th to the 4th of July would be like the second watch. And then if you add July 4th plus 40 days, it leads you to August 13th, which happens to be the 9th of Av. And it's also 1 week before the 7 years of the of the total solar eclipse. Okay, and it's also the day that both of the temples were destroyed 655 years apart, the first and the second temple. Now, they've already talked about a third temple building of this year. That's why they had to have the red heifer sacrifice, right? And this is also when they believe that their Antichrist is going to come. All right, it's also the 33rd week of the year. And then you have July 5th, which deals with the fig tree generation, And then we have 40 days, all right, from August 13th, all right, which leads you to September 22nd, which happens to be the autumn equinox, happens to be one day before the 7-year of the Revelation 12 sign, and it also happens to be the day of radiant peace, which also is one day before my 17-year wedding anniversary. And I don't think this is by coincidence. Now, one last time of adding an additional 40 days, which I believe these were the 4 watches we are told to watch, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, we have the star explosion, they said, by September. I explained that in my video last night. And then we also have, there's the watches. All right. So in this article I was studying, it's just so perfect. So we have the barley harvest, which is from March to April. We have the wheat harvest, May to June. And then we have the grapes, which begins in July, but officially it's from August to October. All right. Pay attention to these and how all this coincides together. All right. Don't you say that there are still 4 months? Then comes the harvest. Listen to what I'm telling you. Open your eyes and look at the fields, for they are ready for harvest. John 4:35. So typically we think of a harvest in the fall, right? Yet in Israel, the harvest began in spring. Cheshvan, the end of the autumn months, is actually when the harvest was over. 4 months until it would begin again in spring. This saying, 4 months yet until the harvest, seems to have a sentimental of procrastination in Jesus's time. So we have the harvest isn't for another 4 months. We don't have to worry about that right now, yet Jesus pushed back against the cultural phrase, insisting that his kingdom wasn't someday far off, but present and available now. Okay, so in exchange, Jesus is using a harvest to describe people coming into the kingdom. So he uses his same language in Matthew 9:35-38 when he says the harvest is abundant, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest. And again in Mark 13, in the parable of the sower and the parable of the weeds. He makes the harvest even more personal in Matthew 21:33-43 when he presents himself as the rejected son coming to collect his father's harvest, prophetically telling of his crucifixion. Harvest is a picture of a revival and evangelism, of sharing the good news about the kingdom of God. All right, harvest can also be seen as a picture of Christ's return. Depending on your interpretation of Revelation, the harvest of the earth in chapter 14 is a spiritual picture of what's happening when Jesus was teaching about the harvest in Mark and Matthew, a prophetic picture of the harvest to come with his return, or both. Jesus often taught to be ready at all times for his return, Matthew 24:36-44 and Matthew 25:1-13. Cheshvan is the only month with no holidays, no feasts, no fast. Traditionally, it is believed that Cheshvan is reserved as the month the Messiah will come. The month also plays a prominent role in the story of Noah. The flood both began and ended in the month of Cheshvan. Okay, and then I'm going to end with this, and it says, for it will be exactly like it was in the days of Noah, when the Son of Man appears. Before the flood, people lived their lives, eating, drinking, marrying, having children. They didn't realize the end was near until Noah entered the ark, and then suddenly the flood came and took them all away in judgment. It will happen the same way when the Son of Man appears. Matthew 24:37-39. But the thing is, it is not going to be by an actual flood. It's going to be by fire. And what better way? Nuclear. In Noah's day, they were saying 4 months yet until the harvest. So yet, it doesn't mean that it is the harvest now. It is yet until the harvest. Okay, so like the parable of the virgins, they were letting their lamps dry up. Perhaps Jesus rebuked okay, about saying the harvest is still months away was not just about evangelism, but also about our own hearts being prepared for his return, always filled with the Holy Spirit, eager to bring even more harvest into his house. Cheshvan marks 4 months until the harvest, but let us live our lives like it's not far off. Cheshvan actually is, ready for this? Rosh Chodesh, or Cheshvan, November 1st, November 2nd. And that is on the Torah calendar. Okay? And I'm not getting into how this is the 8th month. That's the 2nd month. You have the spring. You have the fall. The head of the new year, or the ending of the new year. The beginning of the Jubilee. I don't get into all the Jewish roots. Just presenting, this finding here. So it's just like the 4 watches. Summer, or we have spring, then you have summer, then you have fall, then you have winter, and Israel has 2. Okay, and in between those 2, summer and winter. The former rains, the latter rains. You have the harvest season, you have the planting season. For us, it's the same thing. You're not going to plant stuff in the late fall. I mean, you might for winter grass and stuff, but like for the barley, the wheats, and the grapes, you're not going to. So if the wheat, gathers into the barn, the wheat gets its head chopped off, which we know it represents the tribulation saints. And then we have the barley, which gets winnowed, carried away, March through April. And then we have the grapes, okay, which is July or August through October. So how it coincides with these feasts and things, with the 9th of Av, and with the 40 days, with the 4 different watches leading up to this harvest timing, there has to be some type of quiet period for the Antichrist to rise. Not all destruction happens in that very same day the Antichrist rises. That's not how that's going to happen. There has to be some type of order out of the chaos. Okay, and if they believe that their Messiah is coming in the month of this, that could very well be why the election is postponed. Okay, see, and why we are not going to see it. Okay, I just feel with everything that's been shown with these 40 days, God uses the number 40 very, very prophetically, very precise, and every one of it leads to a major holiday or something. This is why I believe we are told to watch. It's going to happen in one of the watch periods. You see what I'm saying? So, I've also had only one dream ever of the 40-day, of the 9th of Av. So I don't know 100% what day or hour he's coming. I just know we're in the season of that. And it would sound more promising before fall, because the fall of mankind. And we know that the biblical fulfillment of the fall feasts deal with the second coming of Christ. This is also the Antichrist coming, because at the fall time is when darkness starts setting in. Fall into winter. Spring into summer is when it brings life. It's springing up, and then you have the fall. You fall back. Okay? See, I just see all these different things going on. So, I just thought this stuff was very interesting. So, take this up to the Lord, as always. Pray over this, and I'll see you there in the air. God bless.